Okay, cool. Okay, everybody, welcome to another episode of Fast Break Points, where we come and talk about random topics for a quick 10, 15 minutes max. My guest today, I've got also from our network, Joey Nanai. How are you, man? Happy New Year, brother.
Happy New Year from here, the city of the future, Hamilton.
Nice, brother. Nice. Okay, so there's been a lot of sporting comebacks over the years. A few to mention here was Japan beating South Africa in the 2015 Rugby World Cup.
Yes.
We look back to since the America's Cup is on right now in New Zealand, we look back to 2013, where Oracle pulled off the unthinkable and beat Team New Zealand, coming back from a 8-1 deficit to win the America's Cup. And then,
Yes, I remember that.
And then the other one to mention was Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA Finals, becoming the first NBA team to come back and win the finals from a 3-1 deficit against the Golden State Warriors. But, none of these stories compare to the ultimate sporting comeback story of Dave Wottle. And David Wottle. And I've got most of you here to tell us all about it. So, who is Dave Wottle?
David Wottle. He was a middle distance runner from the United States of America over there. So he's well known as the gold medalist in the 800 meters run at the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich. He's also known for wearing a golf cap while running. It's a white golf cap. There's a lot of videos in recent times that have gone viral as bits of inspiration for people who just looking for, I guess, ways to never give up. He's an American who hailed out of Canton, Ohio. He's one of the inspirations for me personally in recent challenges that I've had, weight loss challenges. One particular example was there was a few of us in the WESWES network. Actually, we did our own weight loss challenge, and you and I, we were speaking about this earlier, Cam. I was 3 weeks to go in our 8-week challenge, and I was still at the back of the pack, just like David Wottle, who he was at the back of the pack or in the 800-meter run, the final for the gold medal, and coming into the last lap, he was still at the back, and he decided, this is where I'm going to make my move. He kept a steady pace that was good for him. But obviously the pack in front of him, which included everybody else in the race, had stormed ahead without him, and he decided just before that final bell that he was going to make a go for it. And in that last lap, you can see him moving slowly but surely to the front from the back, and it's quite a remarkable thing to view. So if you get a chance, look at Dave Wottle on YouTube. You could type in things like "follow the white hat" or just David Wottle, and it'll come up. Very inspirational, because you can see him just moving, beating one guy after the other, making his way to the front, where the last two guys that were in front of him, there was basically a sprint in the last 100 meters for all three of them to see who. He said in interviews after that he would have been happy with third place. He was gunning for third place for the bronze medal, but ended up winning it by a nose. So that then inspired the never give up attitude, because of the fact that he came from the back to win the race, and it inspired me in my weight loss challenge personally to try and make a comeback from the back to the front. And I ended up getting second in that first challenge, and then there was another challenge, I think a couple of months later, or straight away after, where I ended up winning that one. So thank you, Dave Wottle, for being an inspiration.
Those comebacks I mentioned earlier, they're more of a team focused comebacks, right? Dave Wattle's individual performance in that run in that track race, would you say it added more weight to that story, to his comeback story?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there've been a lot of instances over history, especially in the Olympics, where there have been Dave Wottle type victories. A couple of them have been New Zealanders, and John Walker and Peter Snell. If you watch videos of those two guys, you see, although they didn't come from right at the back of the pack, they did come from a few people behind and win their respective races. And it's a scenario where you think, shucks, the reason why you would think as an individual this is better than those team comebacks is because he only had himself, and he had to beat other individuals on his way to that one race. And when you're in the moment, I guess you're fighting against yourself to tell yourself to push your body to the limit. Whereas these team scenarios where comebacks had happened, there's a whole lot of variation, and there's a whole lot of things that come into play there, where the control is in the hands of the other team doing not so well versus your team doing well, and other individuals in your team. So you could have a whole bunch of superhumans in your team, and so it comes down to, I think, well, for me, the individual feat was far greater because he had himself to overcome as well as others in his race.
It's interesting because when you mentioned Dave Wottle on our chat, during our Biggest Loser challenge, that was the first time I've ever heard of him. And
Right.
just a bit about that story about his comeback. Like, I thought, wow, is this well known? Because I never heard of him.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that, because during the 1972 era, he was quite overlooked as one of the great runners. And like he does talks around the world even to this day, riding off his own coattails, and fair enough. Like he tells the story of how he was overlooked at the time because there's so many great runners back then, and the fact that he won this one particular race of those many races in the Olympics around that time, they never thought of him as a potential winner, and that for me makes it even greater a victory or a feat, because he wasn't even in the conversation, and he came out of nowhere and won it.
And then he's got that hat.
Yeah, and he's got that hat, which you won't see that. You won't see that in the Olympics now.
Oh. Okay. I think I'm gonna look up that YouTube and have a look at him.
Yeah, it's funny because I come across it all the time on Instagram and Twitter and even Facebook, because there are people using that video as an example to for their narrative, because there's a lot of motivational speakers like the Eric Thomases and the likes who are using that example for never giving up. Dave Wottle, and I hope he gets paid at all his speaker engagements very well, because that's something he could dine off for the rest of his life.
Sure, bro. Thanks for that story. Awesome.
All good. I'm sweating. I think I better go to the gym.